Yeah,
Yay!
yeah, you have to go to live. We both have to be live, and
Yeah,
that's how we could get in.
that's something, because I just saw you come up and I thought, I'll just watch. And then I was like, no. And I screwed this up with AK Mulford last week as well. I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And I was jabbering on for like 10 minutes,
That's
all on my own without her. Never mind. Okay.
How are you?
I'm good. I've got my Prosecco to celebrate your new book. Show me your new book.
Thank you.
There you go. Have you got a copy on you?
What I have up here on my hold on, I was just looking what my next to be read is, you know what I mean, because I've been so busy beta reading and doing stuff, but I just pulled this up. This is my next to be read. So that's what I have on there. Yep, it's on my list because I, the problem is when you're working on your own stuff, you just don't have time to read everything you read. So let me see. I think I have a cover on here somewhere. It's still an ebook. It's going to be a print book once I get the print book stuff up. You know, my best friend Marie Hart is helping me with it. She's doing the formatting for me, and she just got the ebook format. She's going to send it to me, and then I'll get it up.
Fantastic.
And then it's so exciting. I didn't think this day would ever happen. On here, I got it covered.
And I want a paperback because I love to have. Look at how amazing that cover is. If that doesn't draw you in, I don't know what does, quite frankly. So who was your cover artist? Who did you get to design that?
It's Amy from, now you said that, I'm gonna forget her name. I have it in the book. Hold on, it's in the acknowledgments. Wait.
Yay.
See, I have problems with my illness where sometimes I'll have really bad insomnia. So I've only had about 3 hours sleep. So you'll have to bear with me if I've lost my mind a little bit. It's with, I think isn't it Well Covered Books? Yeah. I don't know. It's Amy with wellcoveredbooks.com. Yeah. She's a friend of Marie's, and she does a lot of Marie's covers, and Marie suggested her, and she's so great to work with. She actually just moved. She's moving to like another country, like Bulgaria or Argentina. So I have to wait till she said get the cover for book 2 because she's like taking her whole life, like moving. No, maybe it's like Colombia, but it's like one of the South American countries that. Yeah, somewhere she's moving somewhere, but
she'll always be there. But I've got to say that cover is such a perfect match for the book. I mean, it's just really encapsulates everything that the book's about. So I mean, you've gotten a great cover there for that. I think it's brilliant, and it really stands out. I mean, I know when I've looked through it on,
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, when you've looked through it on Goodreads or Amazon, and it really pops. So I think that's something you've got going for you, which will be great. So how long has it been since you've actually released a book?
So the last release I did with the book is when my books were with the Digital First House for the Dark Ritual series. Yeah. They came out originally, I think, what has it been, like 6 years? It's been 6 years since I released a book, because the last book in my series came out with that house, and I then after that had a problem with my chronic fatigue where I wasn't able to. Sometimes if I'm worse or I'm better, I can write, but sometimes I get in this weird kind of not too ill but still too ill place where it's very hard for me to be creative. So I want to say I had a few years in there when I was having a hard time being creative. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to see if I can write something with a writing partner, because sometimes that helps, if it's not just all on you.
Absolutely.
And so I had a friend, and I had this idea for this book, a new adult, because, I love writing new adult. And I hadn't written contemporary romance in a long time. I wrote contemporary romance like a decade ago under super spicy writing alias that has been retired, and I hadn't done an indie book. Back when indie was first a thing, I did some indie books, but after that I was always with Digital First Houses, because I had no success as an indie author. I was too out of the box at the time. I make like $40 at the time, and all my friends were making like thousands of dollars. Some of my friends were making like $20,000 on their books, and I'm like, I don't think indie is working for me back then. So I really hadn't thought about going indie. And then I was looking for a writing partner. A friend I know on Wattpad, I said, do you know anybody who might be interested? She sent me like 4 people she thought might be interested. I read some of their stuff. Cynthia Ann seemed to sound the most like me, and some of their stuff. Cynthia Ann seemed to sound the most like me, and I liked the same some of their stuff. Cynthia Ann seemed to sound the most like me, and I liked the same tone I did. And why did it have us not go? Oh, there. Do you want to try this out? Because it's kind of like dating, right? And she goes, oh yeah, I'd like to try it. And it just really worked well for us. So that was 2018 when we wrote the book, and submitted our selling of it. Until Marie. So.
So was it all your idea, or did you brainstorm together and collaborate with how the book was going to go?
So I'm a pantser, and I usually have an idea how a book's going to start, and quite often have the ending. In this instance, I only had the idea for the first chapter. So I actually wrote the first chapter out and had the idea for this heroine named Lily, who had been, I had always wanted to write the story. It had kind of been in the back of my head. You know how they percolate back there, who was in a very bad place and was a violinist. And I wrote the first chapter, and then when she came on, as we went along, we brainstormed and we had ideas. So it was a very collaborative thing. You know, the first chapter was written, and I had the idea for the heroine, but everything else was kind of up in the air until we started working on it. And we would brainstorm back and forth via text message, as in, oh my God, I have an idea for the next scene, you know, because we're very much, both of us, pantsters, but in this instance, because we were writing together, we had to be a tiny bit more plotters, because you know you can't just go off on your own tangent if you're working with someone. You know, so we would be like, oh, I have an idea for the next scene, and whoever felt the strongest about the scene wrote it, and then would send it to the other person, and the other person would expand upon it and add to it, right? So we would go back and forth with who wrote, and we could sound enough like each other. Like, I do think we are different writers, but we are close enough that we can sound like each other, right? So we just, you know, and we had so much fun working on the story, and we love the characters so much. So when we sent it around, it took us like a year, I think a year and a half. You know how it is when you try to do the more traditional route. It takes you forever to hear back from everyone, right? And we had a couple close calls. A couple people told us they liked the story, but they didn't think it would sell. Nobody was reading Dark Contempt. So we were kind of heartbroken about it. We had started the second book, had half of it done, and then just were so heartbroken that nobody loved the stories as much as we did. We stopped writing the second book and put them all away in a folder, and then went both to go work on our, you know, own projects, right? And then it had always bothered me that the first chapter, there was something not quite right about the first chapter. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes for me, I'm a very intuitive writer, and it kind of felt like a song that's not quite in tune. And I couldn't put my finger on, there's a bit of pacing or something wrong with the first chapter. And I don't write just contemporary romance. Cynthia Ann does. But Todd, my husband, had double dog dared me to write a story where there are no ghosts and nobody died, right? So, I mean, he goes, try to write a contemporary romance. And even when I wrote spicy romance back in the day, it always had adventure or thriller or suspense or ghost. So I think too, getting Cynthia Ann on board, her job was to not allow me to kill anyone. There were times when I was like, oh, we could kill her aunt, you know, and she's like, no, Cat, you're not allowed to kill anybody in this book. There can't be any ghosts in this book. So she was tasked to keep me on.
That's so funny. I would be the same. Somebody always needs to die in one of my books. I couldn't do something without the supernatural or the paranormal or something.
I know. I tried to put a ghost in the aunt's house, and she was like, no ghost. That's just naturally how I write. But you know, Todd had double. If I always have to accept a double dog dare from my husband, right? So I was like, oh, I can do this. I can write just a romance. And so, but since it's not my genre, and best friend Hart, that's, you know, one of, just to see, you know, if you can give me some tips on what's wrong with it, because it just feels a little off, not like real off, but a little off. She does not like angsty. dramatic new adult. That is just not what she reads. So she said to me, you realize this is not a genre that I like at all. And I go, no, I totally understand that, but just give me some tips. The surprising thing is she read the first chapter. She realized that we had a little bit too much internal dialogue, and if we took a few things out, it kind of made the pacing better. But then, surprisingly, she went to read the whole entire book.
Wow.
And then demanded to know what was in book 2, and told me, I hate this crap, but I couldn't stop reading, and you need to listen to me. And I forced us to put the book up.
I mean, it was a compulsive read, and it's not a genre I actually read that much of. And I thought, I know you. I'm so curious to see what you write. And I was like, I'm desperate to read it. And I did. I read it in a couple of nights. And I was so... And do you know, I mean, I kept thinking it was coming to a natural end. And then, no, something else would happen. Then something else would happen. And I was like, and how you draw out that sexual tension. I mean, I'm like, could you just get on with it, you know? But boy, when it finally happened, it was so worth it. So, it was phenomenal. Yeah, it was brilliant.
I'm so glad you liked it.
For those who are watching, we probably should have started with this. Tell us a little bit about the book, what it's about, any tropes you think that will appeal to people. Just give us a little rundown of your sales spiel.
Well, yeah, that's elevator pitch, which I always suck at, because I would rather write a 90,000 word book than write a blurb.
Yeah.
I'm just that type of writer. So Broken Lullaby is about a girl, Lily, who has found herself after an accident very depressed. Her world and her passions have been taken away from her, and she's really having a hard time, because I really like messy characters. I really like characters, and that's why I love new adult too, is because the people don't really know who they are yet, and I really find that interesting. They're in a place where they're still trying to figure out, who am I, where's my place in the world. So Lily's in a bad place, and this is the thing that I didn't know if people would like, because the trope is that she ends up finding herself really drawn to her best friend's boyfriend, her roommate's boyfriend. And, a lot of people are like, oh no, I'm not reading that, because it is, a betrayal.
Yeah.
But I did a video not too long ago, or one time when I was working with somebody, she was a friend of mine, a coworker, but a friend. And I don't know about you, but there's a girl code that if somebody you're friends with, they have like a totally hot boyfriend, you can't consider him like a real person, in your head, because there's a girl, but this one friend of mine, she had a boyfriend that was like totally dreamy. He was like, how you have a list when you're like in your 20s of everything? He was like everything on my list. And I thought to myself, oh my Lord, every time he'd come in, I'd be like, he's not a real guy. He's not a real guy. You know what I mean? Because I'm a good friend. But I always thought to myself, what would have happened if that attraction had been so powerful, and it had, been something that had made you break your girl code that you don't really want to, and betray a friend, and what would that be? And that trope had always sort of interested me, because, sometimes you get instant attracted, you meet someone and you just, and you wonder what happened if both of you had been in another relationship when that happened. And my mom, she had always told me when she was in her 20s, she had a guy that was in her same group, and he was engaged to a girl. And at his engagement party, he met another girl that he instantly fell in love with. And that ended up being his future wife. And I always thought to myself, yes, what happens if you are with someone else, and then the person that you're meant to be with, your soulmate, shows up, right? So that trope had always interested me. So basically, it's a trope about a girl that finds herself a bit broken, and she's kind of trying to find the light at the end of the tunnel. She finds herself in a bad situation, in a relationship she's not really prepared for emotionally. The relationship moves way too fast for both of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's the interesting thing too. So
I think it's so true to that age when you get drawn into this physical attraction that can feel so fierce. And, that young adult, true to that age when you get drawn into this physical attraction that can feel so fierce. And, that young adult, new adult age when your emotions are so raw and everything's so much more powerful. and you are in a situation before you've even realized you're in the situation, whether it's good or bad. Yes. And you can feel, because she's suffering so much, and she's so well drawn, because she's not a perfect person. She has her flaws. She's not coping with life. And that almost makes her so much more lovable, because you just think, you just want to pick her up and hug her and be there for her. And then she's getting into these situations, and I think that was so well done. But I've got to say, I love that she plays the violin, that she's musical. That there was something about that gave her just a level of intrigue and depth that I really appreciated. And I wondered, are you musical at all?
I am not, but I had a passion that I ended up losing because of an injury. And so I knew what that place came from. I'm 6'2". Most people don't know that. I'm an Amazon. I come from an Amazon family, and I have. Yes,
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, nobody knows how tall. Yeah.
That's why you're always sitting down in your videos.
I know. If I stand up, you see. My brother's 6'9". My father was 6'4". My mother is 5'10". And then, so my nieces, 2 of my nieces are 6'3". One of my nephews is 6'10". Well, my only nephew is 6'10". And then the shortest niece I have is 5'10". She's not 6 foot, and she feels really short. And she gets really upset if you tease her about it. So in my family, basketball is a big thing. My dad played basketball, my mom played basketball. Yeah. And when I was 11, I decided I love basketball. I was going to work from the time I was 11 to get a basketball scholarship. That was my goal. Wow. And I didn't know at the time girls didn't really have basketball scholarships back then. They just had them like a year before I actually ended up getting one. And so I had a lot of other interests, always into books, always into literature and reading, but my passion was always basketball. And I got that scholarship to a Division IV school. And right before I went to go to the school, I was bit by a Saint Bernard who tore into my leg. He went to attack my dog, and I instinctually pushed my dog out of the way, which meant when the Saint Bernard lunged, he grabbed onto my leg, shook his head. He tore into my leg so much I had 22 stitches about this far apart. It was like a millimeter from tearing into the muscle. So I show up for basketball in crutches, and this has been my dream forever. And then when I started working out again, unfortunately, a lot of times in college sports, you're just kind of like a piece of meat. They don't really take care of you like they should. And they forced me to start working out far too soon and doing weights when I hadn't been doing anything. And I herniated a disc in my back. And so there went the dream of having basketball, and having to sit there and have this dream that you've obsessed about since you were 11 and spent every waking moment working towards, and this passion you have, and just having it ripped.
Oh, I know. My brother was the
so
my brother played basketball, and although we're American, we grew up in the UK, and he's been back and forth. He lives in Boston now, and he used to play for the year ahead of him because he was so good. But then he slipped a disc during a game, and that was it. But also Saint Bernards, I thought they were supposed to be like the most gentle rescue.
No. I was really surprised when I went to the hospital with this gash in my leg. The lady said, we see a lot of St. Bernards when they get older that ended up biting like young children and stuff. So since that day, I always look suspiciously at St. Bernard.
Yeah, I bet you do. Did you hear all those stories about them?
I didn't have the greatest.
Yeah, saving people from drowning and all that kind of stuff. And that had always been
I know. I was surprised. And I had sort of shitty friends in high school that weren't really the greatest friends. I mean, they were the friends I had at the time, but their solution was, when I was on meds for the pain, I was on crutches, I had this thing. I came over and still was having like post-traumatic stress about it. They came and made me and put in Cujo. So here I am, have you seen Cujo, which is the Saint Bernard that goes insane? And he's like, So here I am like this on pain meds watching. I don't know if it helped.
Exposure therapy.
Worse, but
Oh.
It was. And on one side, I'm thinking maybe it helped because it was like that 2 hours of just like sheer horror and panic. But it took me a long time. I love dogs. It took me a long time. If a dog ran towards me, I'd have that moment. So I have that in common with Lily, that I had a passion torn away from me, and also I have post-traumatic stress. And and with my chronic illness, I've had anxiety and depression. So I could write, you know, those were kind of written by own voice. You know what I mean? Like I have been in those places that, you know, probably not as dark as Lily found herself, but you know, I know what that's like. So yeah.
I'm the same, Kat. I mean, I have had anxiety and OCD since university. I lost 2 friends at university, and it's always been my mission to include mental health in all my books. And I love fantasy and sci-fi and horror, but I want to, you know, there were no books that had me in them during that time. That was before the internet and before you could Google a panic attack and, you know, all those kinds of things. And I love that. I mean, I think you've always got to write about what's in your heart, don't you? And that's what makes.
I do think so.
Yeah. I
do think so. Oh, someone was saying, she's saying that's awful. I had a disc surgery 3 months ago. Always wanted to. Oh, but she always wanted a Saint Bernard. No Saint Bernard.
Something small and cuddly. You know.
Something smaller.
I have a Welsh Springer Spaniel, and she's beautiful. She's mid-sized. She's the most affectionate thing ever. I mean, you can be doing a tug of war toy with her and kiss her lips, and she won't do it. She's just beautiful. Yeah.
So we have dogs that we have. I'm married to Dr. Doolittle, and stray dogs literally show up at our door barking. I'm not even making that up. So we have 2 stray dogs that are middle kind of mixes that like are adorable and really nice.
So cute.
Yeah. But what you were saying about seeing yourself in the books, you know, I had seen, so you always hear this in writing, write about what you know. And every time I had heard that, I always thought they meant about the career. Always thought they meant about, you know, I always was like, write what you know, whatever career it is, whatever you've done. Okay, I'm a photographer. I can write about photography.
Yeah.
And then I heard one writer say, no, that writer said, I take that to mean write what you know emotionally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that changed everything for me when I started to think about that. What can I bring to a story that I know emotionally?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that for me was a huge, mind blown moment. So
yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, you know, I've been writing this YA horror, and my main character has been in a mall shooting. And although I've not been in a mall shooting, I have actually been shot at. But that's not the fear that I draw on. The fear that I draw on was when I had a panic attack and I thought I was going to die, you know, my first panic attack. That's all you need. So that's what they say, write what you know, write those emotions. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to be in the exact same situation,
not at all.
And you don't, and my character Lily doesn't react to the panic attacks the same way I do exactly. You know what I mean? She's her own character, own person, and she reacts to things differently, but you can take that basis, that fear, that kind of thing, and put it into her. So,
and why did you call her Lily? Was there any particular reason behind that?
Okay, so this is something a lot of people don't know. So this book was originally started as an alternate universe fanfic of After.
Okay.
So she was originally called, so I had read the book After because I'm on Wattpad, and After was on Wattpad, and I was really taken with the book and the storytelling, right? And so at the end of After, it really stuck with me. And I was telling Todd, you know, it'd be so, I love contemporary romance, new adult romance. And that's when he did the Double Dog Dare. And I thought to myself, well, I wonder if we could I've never written fanfic before. And I go, well, maybe I have this character, but what if because, you know, in After, he's the screwed up one, right? And if you haven't read After, he's the really messed up one. He's the one that has all the problems. He's the one who's doing drugs and all that kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, what if my heroine, it was like a reverse, a reverse universe where she is the messed up one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's the one that is kind of the more stable one, or the one that kind of was like there for her. And so we started it thinking it was going to be fanfic that we were just going to put up on Wattpad. But by chapter 3, it was its own story. You know what I mean? It was no longer like a fanfic. We had taken on, but we had originally written it under their names, Tessa and Harding.
Right.
So when we realized, look, it's not a fanfic. This is totally different. We had to come up with a name, and literally I go to baby Google names. I go through the names until I see one that I think looks and so Lily just kind of, I don't know, because she violin, artistic, I just saw Lily, and that just I don't know if I came up with the name or Cynthia Ann came up with the name, but one of us just said Lily, and we were like, oh yeah, that's it.
That's the one, because it's gentle. I mean, I have a character called Lily in one of my books, but she's called that because it's short for Lillian, which means monster of the night, and she's actually a demon, and she doesn't know it. So I get
know it. She's a demon. That's cool.
Yeah. So tell me about Book Talk and TikTok. When did you first join TikTok?
So I had been watching TikTok for a while and totally digging all the videos and having a great time just watching TikTok. Yeah. And then I was seeing there was a whole group of people on Book Talk, and I thought, I think I'm going to try this. I was terrified the first video I did. I felt like such a dork. First couple of videos I did, I felt like, oh, but for me, as I started doing them, I realized I was having fun doing them. And for me, it was a cooler medium than I never understood Twitter. It doesn't work for me. There's not enough characters. I'm not like witty in a short amount of time, right? And Instagram is always about the perfect pictures and the perfect life. And that's just not who I am. And so the fact I could be on here and nobody cares that my hair is messy and what I'm wearing, you know what I mean? And you could just be yourself, right? And your authentic self really appealed to me because I could just come on here, have a cup of coffee, kind of ramble and stuff. And so I think I stopped really, I don't do much Instagram. I don't do a lot of Facebook except for my day hustle job, and Twitter I really don't do. I literally just come on here and just adore doing TikToks because I think it's like the coolest thing. Someone said, I'm terrified, but I need to get one done. Or a video. It's scary, the first video.
I think there are.
It really is.
Yeah, I mean, you can do all sorts of things. If you don't want to be on screen, there's plenty of ways to do that, to start without doing that. And, as I mentioned to you in our messages, I'm about to give a talk on TikTok. And it's ironic, really, because I do feel like the new kid on the block. However...
No, I feel like that, too. There's tons of stuff I don't know about TikTok. I mean, since November. I've been doing them since November, but there's tons of stuff.
Yeah.
And so apparently I don't do them right.
I joined in May, I think. But Twitter was always my main platform, and I don't sell books on Twitter, but I have a huge author support group on Twitter, and I kind of thought, well, where is my audience? My audience is on TikTok because I write young adult. It's all that age.
Yeah, a lot of young adults are coming over.
Yeah, I need that's where I need to be, and so now that all my author friends who know me because I work for a mentoring program as well. So now that they all know I'm on TikTok, they're like, well, tell us about TikTok. Tell us what to do. Yeah. So I have to do a how-to on TikTok when I'm like, I'm not even, I don't even know what I'm doing.
No, I feel like that too. Because, Marie was really hesitant to get on. And I'm like, you need to come on. My friend Jax was hesitant. I was giving him tips, but I was literally Googling stuff to figure out how to do it. And somebody told me, I don't do it like I know you're supposed to be smart about it. Here's what I like about TikTok. I think sometimes people just do whatever the heck they want. They don't really care. So there's some days I'm bored and I do like 9 videos.
Yeah.
Someone was like, it's so cool, you're a rule breaker. But you know what I mean? There's some people that just do 1 or 2 or schedule them in. No, I just do whatever I'm doing and I don't care. So that's
sometimes they say like schedule them throughout the day, and I'm like, no, I know the 3 I want to do. I'm just going to go bang, 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 done.
Well, I schedule things. In my side hustle job, I do social media, Facebook admin work, where I have to schedule in stuff for my day job. And the last thing I want to do is come to TikTok and treat it like my day job. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Absolutely. So for me, I'm like, I could schedule it in. I could be all smart, but then it's not fun. Then it's more like work. Yeah. And I wanted something where I could just have fun. Absolutely. And I think that's what TikTok is for me.
I do too. And I mean, they always say, just take one platform and do it well, and the others, and I think that was always Twitter for me, but I much prefer TikTok because I feel like in the short amount of time that I've been on it, I've gotten to know people so well, like yourself,
Yeah, that's what Allie and I was saying. Yeah, I've made friends faster on here, good friends, than I have in any other social media. I've made friends in other social media, but I think it takes longer to get to know them because you're messaging or looking at their words, right? Yeah. There's something more intimate about seeing the actual people and when they're talking and or looking at their words, right? Yeah. There's something more intimate about seeing the actual people and when they're talking, and it makes the friendship quicker because
like their tone, you see who they
Allie
are.
says, if we
totally.
And I think if we saw each other in the real life, we'd be like, let's sit down and have coffee and be talking to each other and feel like we actually know each other, right? Yeah, that is like the cool thing about TikTok.
I totally could message you or Ali or Jasmine or whoever, you know, and just chat and know that, I mean, that is all about authors supporting authors on this channel. I mean, it's a fantastic community, and I know that there's strife, but I never see the strife. You see the strife. I never see the strife.
Well, I've seen the strife. I sometimes see the strife and go, well, I think anytime you get any kind of social media, you get a group of people together, you're going to have drama and strife. And I don't get me wrong, I love to watch the drama. Yeah. I just don't like to be the center of it. It's like watching like an accident or a train wreck, and I don't want anybody to get hurt, but you'd rather watch it from outside. So I always like to know what's going on drama wise, and I don't like to watch it. I just don't like to be a part of it. I mean, but the drama sometimes on here is crazy. Sometimes the drama just gets nuts. Like, you don't read this author's book, or don't do this, don't do that, and then they like reverse themselves, and then they get mad. But the one that surprised me is I found myself on Witch Talk once. Well, not once, but I do paranormal. So, you know, we end up on Witch Talk because we write paranormal. Yeah. And
I hadn't thought of that.
A bunch of witches were hexing each other. So you think we have it bad where we get mad or we have drama. But in Witch Talk, when they get pissed off at each other, they're like hexing each other.
That's not
and
good.
I'm like, oh, dear goodness. Oh, that's not good. No. I think to myself, as bad as book talk gets, at least nobody's hexing me. I mean, they may be cursing me out, but at least I'm not getting hexed.
That's scary. But I do think Twitter is worse for all of that. It's just because you don't know how to read the messages, and the things that have been going on the last week actually are. I tend not to spend much time on front Twitter. I hide in message groups with my author friends, and that's enough.
Yeah.
So
that's sometimes it's good. Yeah, I mean, it's just sometimes just things get spiraled out of control. It's just, there's always been a lot of drama, especially in romance land or young adult land, and there always is in writing. Yeah. And you always follow the drama just to make sure it's something that you want to be aware of in case it's a problem with the house or you know what I mean?
Well, with the house or the agent, but also, you know, when you think about diversity and sensitivity, whether that's in the queer world or that's the color world, you know, whatever that is, you know, we need to, as indie authors as well, we need to be on point and making sure that, I mean, it's hard. It is hard. To getting that all right, because you know, it's a whole sensitive minefield. So but we continue to learn.
Wendy, an author over here, says she's going to pop over to your guest to say hi. So Wendy's going to pop over there. It's so weird that we can only see each other's. Like, I can't see your comments and people, which is kind of weird. But no, I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was saying Wendy's going to pop over there to say hi.
I'm for Catrina. Yeah, okay. There we go. So, what is next for you? Are you concentrating on book 2 and book 3? It is a trilogy, yeah?
So it's not a trilogy.
Oh, it's not.
It's a duet.
Oh, it's a duet.
Okay. 2 books in it. So what?
Thank God, because I was not going to be able to wait for book 3. I need book 2 already. You know.
Well, there is going to be a book 3, but it's going to be a duet with 2 other characters. One of the side characters from the first book. But they're going to have their own thing. So our idea originally when we started it is like, this would be kind of cool if we did a series, but each of the series are like 2 books about this couple and then another 2 books about that couple. And then possibly, you know what I mean? Like, we have ideas
for book
like
3 with
like 3 sets of duets.
With the girlfriend she shared the flat with then? No. Okay. Interesting. You could do
with
one.
The character you meet in book 2.
Yeah. Okay.
I won't say that is one of them that's happening, and maybe you guessed, and possibly, but yes, there may be a redemption story for the girlfriend. Yes.
Yeah. Nice.
So nice. There's going to be. I think at some point Steph is getting her redemption story, but I think that. But there'll be 2 books. Now the thing is we have half the book written, and we should be working on that. And instead we ended up, we had always talked about maybe doing more books past that. And then one day I came across a TikTok video of this girl, and I was like, oh my God, this needs to be the heroine in book 3. I'm so in love with this girl. She's everything I can imagine. And the character that we had in mind for her, because we kind of had this character in mind to do it, now we have to change him a bit because they have to be kind of a bit of a challenge for each other. Mm-hmm. So we, instead of working on book 2, we started like planning out book 3, because you know how writers are. Sometimes you procrastinate for a bit after you finish a book, and you should be working on the next one. So we have book 3 kind of plotted out a little bit too. So
cool. Yeah, excellent. That is good. So you've been writing for a long time. Did you do any formal training to be a writer?
Any formal training?
Yeah,
no.
Courses or anything?
Well, so I had always, books have always been a big part of my life, because I was a kid that went to 8 different schools by the time I was in the 4th grade. Mm-hmm. We moved around so much. By the time I was in the 4th grade, I had been to 8 different schools. I was always a new kid. My family are big readers. I'd always loved books. You know, they were like everything to me as growing up. I thought I was going to be an English teacher. So, you know, I went to high school. I went to college to get my English degree. And I had always taken, like, you know, advanced English classes. And in college, I was taking some creative writing classes. I had never really shown my writing to anybody. My writing had always been the secret dream of one day being an author, right? Mm-hmm. And I had always kept my writing to myself. I wrote short stories, poems, but I didn't really show anybody. Yeah. And then I made the mistake of taking this one creative writing class where this instructor was pretty cool. And I don't know if he suddenly had a divorce or a death in his life, but he suddenly did like a 360 and became like Jekyll and Hyde. And I made the mistake of taking something I actually wrote and cared about, not just something I did as an assignment. And I submitted that as my story. And he tore into that story so incredibly hard. And I had never shown my stuff to anyone. And I had this secret dream. And I wasn't prepared for that. No. Do you know what I mean? And it totally crushed me. And I had like a year left on my English degree. It crushed me so much. I decided not to be an English teacher. I stopped writing entirely. I'm really surprised it affected me so much, but I think it's because I wanted this so bad, right? And I didn't write another word for 20, 25 years, 20 years. Yeah. Wow. I didn't write another word. And I ended up getting into computers and running some computer labs, teaching computer classes at a community college. And I met my husband, who is really into books. He's a computer nerd, but he's a big reader, really into books. And he always knew this was my secret dream, because, you know, I always talked about it. And we share a passion for books. And when I hit an age, it was like close to 40. I mean, I can't remember the exact birthday. He said to me, I think it was like my 40th birthday. He said to me, he's very, very supportive, but right to the point. He said, I love you, but you've had the secret dream of being a writer since you were a kid. And I don't mean to be mean, but you're going to die soon. So if you were ever going to go after this, do it. I think it needs to be something that you try, right? And I said to him, I've never written a big book. I've written like short stories. I don't know how to write a book. And he said, you know, stop, you know, go figure it out. That was what he said. So literally, he's kind of set me on the path of figuring it out. And I didn't know anything. I stumbled onto, my biggest passion is mysteries, young adult fantasy. I love contemporary romance and historical romance, but my big one is like mysteries. But I didn't feel like I was ready to jump in and try a mystery. So I thought, well, let me try a romance book. Because, you know, you think in your head, oh, that'll be easy to write. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I stumbled onto Harlequin had a forum where a whole bunch of aspiring authors hung out, and just started kind of writing books on the forum and figuring it out as I went. And it was just me Googling things. Wow. Looking at tutorials that, you know, authors have tips, looking at tips, trying to figure out how to do better conversation, kind of learning just by doing it and looking up a lot of tips and stuff online. That's incredible. So yeah, just kind of. Yeah. I mean, I think when you come from a background of not having that professional, you know, help almost, and it you know, it takes you longer to figure things out, and when you get there, it's such an achievement. You know, it's incredible. And what an amazing husband. I mean, wow. Yeah, he has always been amazing. Yeah. He is like the coolest dude. He's my main editor. He always is my main critique partner. he is just like, and and he helped me, because I said to him, the most important thing is, after what happened to me with that teacher, I never want to be in a situation where somebody can take this passion away. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, I had one passion pulled from me, so I said, I need to get a thick skin.
Yeah.
I need to put like chapters out to be critiqued. Yeah. I need you to be honest in your critiques. I need to get it so that I could take criticism and it doesn't like break, kill me, destroy me. Yeah. And I need to get a thick skin, because I refuse to let anybody take my passion away. Absolutely. Just with my fear. But you want it so bad, and you're so worried you can't do it or you won't do it well. It's so easy to crush new authors. You know what I mean? That's why I'm always like, with your beta reading. Yeah.
I mean, the whole industry is paved with rejection, and obviously the more you pursue it, the more you get, and it's then you get used to it, and like
you do.
Yeah, you do, and you just kind of like
if you pursue trade, you get tons of rejection letters.
Yeah,
I have some that now, if they're really awesomely bad, like they're really harsh in them, I put those ones up on the wall. Like, I had one for the Dark Ritual series, and I sent it around. And an editor for one of the big New York places read the full, and she got so mad because in the Dark Ritual scene, just go through in the Dark Ritual series, she has to go through 3 really hard things in order to gain the dark magic rituals, 3 rituals. And in one of the rituals, she has to be killed. Like, she has to be strangled to death. And it's kind of like if you've seen the movie Constantine, even though she agrees to it, at the last minute, I think just being a human, you struggle, right? And so the last minute, my heroine struggles. This editor was so upset. No means no. This is what she wants more than anything, because she's seeking her revenge and trying to stay alive. The minute she started struggling, he should have stopped trying to kill her. And she gave me like a really long lecture about how violence was not.
You obviously made an impression, though. Because
this is a really long rant.
Yeah.
Oh yes, where I got told off by an editor about how evil I was being, and I thought to myself, "Oh my gosh, really?" It was like, So I have the ones that are really good rejections up on the wall, so I can look at them, and be like,
well, they say
one day,
unless you hit 100 rejections, in this whole J.K. Rowling who got 12 rejections from publishers. I mean, let's hit 100 or 500.
I know they say. Yeah, no, there's one author I know that was saying that she always felt that writers really spend so much time working on their book, but then they don't spend the same amount of time trying to get as many rejections as humanly possible and see if they can try to find a home for it. So when I read that, I kind of realized, you should look more on rejections as how many can I get? You know what I mean? It's like, because if I'm getting a lot of rejections, it means I'm really trying hard. It means I'm giving the book the best chance it has. And so I'm like you, 100 rejections, 200 rejections, you really need to. And then if it's all no at some point, you have to look at that and decide what you're going to do with the book.
Yeah.
But I think that makes you stronger too. Getting all.
I mean, when you look at the traditional route, and 1% of authors get agent representation, and then 1% of them actually get a book deal. I mean, you have to aim to get as many rejections as you can, because it's insane. So.
And I've heard some people say it's harder to get an agent sometimes than it is to get published, and I do think that's true, because Marie, she was writing and making a really good living and doing all that stuff, and she had put in a few times for an agent, and even when she was with the New York House, was in for an agent, and she can get one. It wasn't until when she went, she had always done indie and been a hybrid. It wasn't until she got a contract for the audio rights. And she took that and she got an agent to do her audio and the stuff for her indie. But you hear people all the time that are with a house, like with the New York House, they can't get an agent. It's hard.
And interestingly, so the program I work for is called Right Mentor, UK based but global, and they run we concentrate on children, so anything from picture book to young adult, and we run a novel competition every year. And out the 5 years it's been going now, I think it's been pretty much not the winner that's been signed by the agent, but one of the runners up. And the agent got to pick the winner. So you're thinking, what's that about?
Because it's so much about what they're looking for at the time. It's so much like I had one friend and they loved her book at one of the big 5, but they had just signed a book with a similar kind of a similar theme to it. So they're like, we love it, but we already did a Grim Reaper. So, you know, we can't take your book on because we already have one.
Yeah. But what annoys me about that, you know, it was like how, you know, vampire books aren't cool. And I'm like, to be honest, I love a vampire book and I will always love a vampire book. And I have been reading vampire books for 30 years and I will continue to read vampire books. I'm never going to not like vampire books. So when a publishing house tries to say vampires aren't cool, I'm like, I want to read vampires. So when you're into a genre, whatever it may be, there's a readership for it. And publishing tries to decide, no, vampires aren't cool anymore. And it infuriates me. Because you know the readership
they'll be like, they'll just decide, instead of sometimes too, even like they'll satiate the market with that one thing that they decide is cool and not look at anything else. And then all of a sudden it'll be nothing but vampire books for 1 year. And then the next year it's nothing but ghost stories for 1 year. You know, it's just crazy how I don't understand it. I do think that I do think that too, when you're dealing with the editors and the agents, sometimes it's, if something is not in, they're not interested in it at all. Like with I told you that, I did a video where I wasn't very good at writing spicy scenes when I first started. And then Marie Hart, my friend who writes them very well, teased me about it. And I spent a solid year learning how to write spicy scenes just because she was giving me such a hard time about it in a nice way, right? Like,
I love your little pink cheeks right now.
That happens when I with my chronic fatigue, when I talk a lot, my face gets really hot.
Nothing to do with spice.
No, it's like what I always like I did something in Wattpad and they were like doing a survey or whatever, and I was like, I'm not having a heart attack. Just when I talk a lot, my face gets really hot because of my chronic fatigue. So I entered a contest that one of the big contemporary spicy authors had, and if you were one of the 3 winners of the contest, you got to get your full book read by this huge editor, this big editor for this New York house. I mean, how exciting is that? And I entered my book, I entered my chapter, and I was one of the 3 finalists, and I was so excited. Here it is. And I said, you know, I was ready to send it off, and suddenly she said, I'm very sorry. The editor decided Spice is not in right now, and she's not interested in reading any of the books. And, you know, you talk about like in this industry where you have heartache and crushed all the time, right? Yeah. You're like, oh, here's my chance. And then they don't even want to look at it. Or another friend wrote a book and she won a contest, and the editor was going to read the book. She was all excited until she saw the editor tweet a day before she sent the book, oh my God, if I have to read one more, book about twins, I will kill myself or something. And this girl's book was about twins.
But then I get the opposite problem.
Book about twins, I will kill myself or something. And this girl's book was about twins.
But then I get the opposite problem. Yeah, I mean, I saw someone tweet about needing YA horror, and obviously, you know, I've been writing on YA horror, and I said to my agent, I finished the YA horror, and she's like, you know, well, I'll have to read it, and then we'll have to do edits, and I'm like, that's like another 6 months. I'm like, she'll be fine with the first draft. It's fine. My agent doesn't work that way, and I'm just like, you know. But you know what? YA horror, I'm seeing it everywhere right now. YA horror is, you know, sometimes you get lucky too. If you're not writing for, I think there's nothing wrong with writing for market. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But if you aren't writing for market, sometimes what you write, when you're done, you're looking around for a house or place for it, and you're like, oh crap, nobody's taking this right now. But sometimes you get lucky and you finish a book like you just did in a time when everybody's looking for YA horror right now. It is super hot right now. Yeah. So I hope we can get that. I mean, because she's just read I have a vampire high fantasy trilogy, and I've only written the first one. So she's been looking at that, plus my YA cli-fi, I guess. It's kind of like Jaws meets the environment. So we've got those to deal with first. And I'm like, but the YA horror is, you know,
happening. It's happening right now. Yeah, there's a song.
Yeah, we'll see.
I do the YA horror. Yeah.
Oh, so what do you love most about being a published author?
I mean, since it was a dream of mine since I was a kids. So, I mean, for me, the coolest thing in the world is that you have these characters and this world or story in your head, and it's just kind of in your head. And then suddenly you write it, and these characters become like walking, talking people that, you know what I mean? You've taken this world that's in your head and you put it on the page. And then when you have other people read it and they like just get to read your characters and end up loving your characters as much as you do, I don't think there's anything more thrilling. I mean, you're going to have people that won't like your stuff or will like your stuff, but when you find someone that just really says, you know, wow, I love that book, it kept me up, that you took somebody out of, you know, their moment of reality, adulting, the day, whatever, that escapism that you get from reading.
Absolutely.
I mean, I love that to this day. But to give that to someone else, that you've allowed them to escape a little bit and to enjoy themselves in this other world, I mean, to me, that's everything.
That's exactly what I always say, Kat, actually. I always say, you know, those favourite books of mine that I felt I wanted to climb inside, if I could give that to one person, or hear one person say, your book is my favourite book, oh, there's just nothing better than that, you know? That's what it's all about, isn't it? It's yeah. What do you find hardest about the writing process?
Writing a book. every time I get done writing a book, every time I have a week to 2 week total freak out. And I say my husband has to go through this every time where I'm like, I don't know how I did that. I somehow did that. I don't know. I can't do it again. It's just all lost. It's all gone. I don't know how I did that. It's completely gone. I'm convinced I can't do it again. And then he always tells me, here we go again. And it lasts for about 2 weeks. And then I settle down and I'm fine and I do it. But it's just, to me, every time. And to me, you know, I love it. It's challenging. It's like taking a boulder and pushing it up a mountain. There's times in it when you don't think you can do it or it's possible. And that's awesome. But it's just freaking people. Some people write, maybe it's easy for them, but for me, I mean, I enjoy the struggle, I do, but it's just like it's challenging every single time. I think so. Every time I do.
But do you enjoy, like, you know, is it the first draft or the editing? What part of the process is your sweet spot?
The first draft, especially if I can do it fast draft. So when I wrote for me, my series of the heart will always be the Dark Ritual series. I mean, those are the characters, the Scooby Gang, Paulina. I don't think I'll ever write any characters that I loved as much as that series because it meant so much for me. And when I wrote that series, the fast draft for me, when I just write pure story and I don't care about if it's good, what other people think, anything, I just write the story purely for my own entertainment as fast as I can. It could be messy. It could be everything. That to me is the awesome part. And then the part when you get done, polish it, fix it up, find the mistakes, decide what's wrong with it. That to me is always the challenge, you know. But I love writing the first draft, especially the messy draft, because I'm not a clean writer.
I'm exactly the same way. I mean, and I'm a plotter, actually. I'm not a pantser, and there's nothing more I love than the freedom of that first draft, because I don't try to be perfect. But all my friends know that I write perfect first draft, so it's fine anyway. You know. But I just
I feel that the editor will say to me, I want you to do this, and you're just like, oh no, you know. That to me, sometimes the things that, I mean, sometimes I compromise, but you know, I just I always struggle with that sometimes. If they want something for my fourth book, I had a really bad situation. I started to downsize, and the editor I had kind of went away, and then I ended up with someone who had been learning how to edit, interned on the edits of my book. But I always had the main she was in charge of it, and so when I sent my fourth book to her, Legion, half of it's fight, just every other fight scene, she just like said delete, 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 and we had so many didn't agree with, you know, like more really didn't agree with. Like I'm pretty easy to work with. I think I'll compromise. Sand with me. Half of the edits were landed aligned line in the sand with her. And it was, if you ask me why it took me, I was, I got a little bit sick after that too, but it was really probably a year and a half of just after that drama of sucking the creativity from me.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Because it was a drama with that editor. It ended up being fine.
Yeah.
It went to the senior editor after, because you know how it is. I don't know if you've had this situation, but if you don't agree with your editor, you go back and forth, emails, then phone calls, then trying to come to a compromise. And if they keep insisting you need to change it, and you just have a line in the sand about it, and not everything, most time you could compromise, but in this instance, I couldn't. I really disagreed with the changes. It goes to senior editor. And when it goes to senior editor, then either you can just be kicked out of the contract or however it works. So the senior ended up fine, but that 3 months of fighting with the with that editor really sucked the creativity and joy from it. So to feeling like myself and wanting to write and not being like crushed by it.
I have been there. When my book The Unadjusted came out, which is the first of a trilogy, and it was with a brand new publisher. So there was me and one other book that were going to be her inaugural books. And the whole premise of The Unadjusted is that it's about DNA modification, and that pills were developed so soldiers who had limbs blown off during war could regenerate their limbs. And therefore it escalated into, you can erase disease, you can erase disability, you can erase it. And she said, well, you can't just erase disability because that's ableism. And I'm like, it's not that I'm ableist, this is a dystopian society where that's happened. It's not going through the process of, it's already happened. And we had a big thing. We had a real back and forth about this, and I ended up having to write a disabled character into the book who had chosen to be disabled by choice, because But so I totally get that. It was a whole back and forth. She wanted to change the science. I'm like, we can't change the science because I don't want the science geeks laughing at the science. My brother's a genetic scientist. He gave me all the science. I'm not doing that. So yeah, totally get that. Yeah.
If he gave it to you, you can't change the science. Yeah. She knew my characters better than I did. Yeah. And she wanted the ending to be different. She had a lot of opinions about the story that I didn't agree with. Thankfully, the senior editor said, do what you want with it. But it's a bad situation. You do hear sometimes when you're in a bad situation, and it does. Todd always says you take something you love and you try to squeeze every penny you can out of it. Yeah. Make a career of it's not fun anymore. So I think with writing, especially, you have to really, really work hard to keep that joy and love of writing and protect it at all costs. Because there are many times along the journey where people try to crush that, and you. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So that you can't write anymore.
Yeah. So on that note, what does book success look like to you?
That's a good question, because I've always just made part-time money at it. I've never, Marie Hart, my best friend, makes full-time living at it. And I've never been able to make a full-time living at it. I've had people that have enjoyed my work. I have, like a lot of young adults that have read my work when it was on Wattpad for free. I had like 3 million kids from all around the world read it, which is still to this day the coolest thing that happened to me. I've made money in my books, but it's always part-time, not enough to live on. The dream is one day to make enough money to be a full-time writer. But, with that comes the stresses of being a full-time writer, right? Because I see the stresses that Marie has that I don't have. You know what I mean? So I do understand that dreaming of this one day would bring with it its whole own baggage and stresses that we don't really know. Yeah. But that is a dream one day. I do think that anytime somebody reads my book and likes my book, to me, that's a success. The fact I got it done, that it's out, I'm proud of it. To me, that's a success. If I can make some money enough to at least pay off the book, make some more on top of it, that's a success. But one day I want a big advance or a big check, like
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the dream. Yeah, I mean, I still have that
it's
dream.
Really interesting. Watching. So this Twitter group that I have, where we have a private message board with about 40 authors. I'm the only indie author in this group, And going from, we all debuted in the same year, and going from I want to publish a book, or I want an agent, to I want a publishing deal, to I want to publish a book, to I want a series, to I want to be on a bestseller, I want to win an award. And it's interesting watching all of their goals change. You know, there's always that next step when you achieve.
Always the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're always looking to, like, you know, I tell Marie and I have this discussion all the time, because you're always looking to, I'm not, you know, like comparing yourself, but looking to another level you could be at that's higher than the level you're at. And so sometimes Marie will be like, I want to be that. I'm like, you know, everybody wants to be you, Marie. You're making a full-time living writing. So I think we're always striving to be more, and we have to be careful sometimes that we appreciate where we are in the journey and enjoy it. Because you're always wanting more. That's just human nature, right? I have this, but I want more.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
I do want to. My big goal is, because I did a list once of things I wanted to accomplish. I did it at a conference where they said, write 5 things down. One was to write a book. One was to write a series. And the third one was to write a mystery. Now, I have been scared to write a mystery. I will admit it, because it's something that I just love. And I just didn't know if I could take it on. Yeah. And I wrote the closest thing to it in book 2 of the Dark Ritual series. Possession is kind of like a mystery. And then after I was done, I said to my husband, that was cool. I did it like a mystery, but how did I do that? I don't remember how I did that. So that's my goal maybe for next year, to write my first mystery.
You just need to start Googling how to write a mystery book. And
I gotta tell you, I think sometimes when you do things that scare you, sometimes those things end up being the coolest things you do. You know, you do things that terrify you a little bit. Because when I wrote the Dark Ritual series, I kind of allowed myself to be angsty and dark, and that was different than I had been writing. And I was almost kind of didn't want to show it to any of my friends, because the stuff I had been writing was so different that I was like, what are they going to think about me when I like show this to them? And when I showed it to them, they're like, oh, we don't, you know, but to me, it was like, I had never been that dark, never been that angsty. And when I wrote, Broken Lullaby, I allowed myself to be more angsty and dramatic than I have in the past, which to me was really freeing and a lot of fun. You know what I mean? Like, I have never normally I'll go dark, I'll go angsty, but I kind of allowed myself to be full drama, which was, I had to say I had so much fun doing that.
Good. So that's good. No, I love it. So do you think anyone can be a writer?
You know, I'll get in trouble for saying that, but I think anybody could write a story. But I do think when it comes to things like playing tennis, or, you know, being a basketball player, or being whatever, you could always do it. But do you have a natural gift to it that's going to propel you to a next level, or professional level, or a higher level, right? Like, I can play tennis, but that doesn't mean I have the skill set in me that even if I practice, one day I'm going to be, you know, Wimbledon. You know, I do think that there are some people that I do think a lot of people can write well. And I've seen a lot of stories that I thought were very well written, but then you really don't want to turn the next page. And I don't know if you can tell me what makes that page turner. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's just a natural storytelling gift that people have. And I don't know that's a gift that you can learn. So
I think that comes when someone writes intuitively.
Yeah.
That is my gut feeling. Although I'm a plotter, I let the story take over. And I think it's that intuition that makes compelling reading. Maybe.
And I do think some people are just naturally storytellers, and there's some people that have been telling stories in their head their whole entire lives. And I'm not saying that anybody can't work at it and become a good writer and have decent stories. But I do think that some people are going to naturally be more talented storytellers. And if they practice, then they could probably go to a higher level than someone who may not have that natural skill. So I think anybody can write and tell a story, but it depends. Everybody can sing, but everybody sing well. You know? So, but nobody wants to hear that, because everybody wants to write a book. So you say that, you get in trouble.
So what would you give? What is your one piece of top advice for aspiring authors? Just the one thing.
I think my top advice is that if you want to be a writer, you have to get into that 3% club of finishing that first book. And there'll be so many authors that you meet, writers along the way, that are talking about writing, thinking about writing, and working on the book, but then they always like, okay, well, I got another idea. I'm going to go over to this book, or no, I didn't get the book finished, or no, I've been working on this book for 7 years and I still haven't finished the book. I don't think a lot of new authors realize that finishing that book puts them in an elite club of 3%. And you cannot be a published author until you finish your first book, because it teaches you so much about storytelling. Editing that book, polishing that book teaches you even more about writing and storytelling, I think. And it's the first step you have to take. But so many people take that for granted. So I would say do anything to be in that 3% club, you know? Do whatever you can to be in that 3. And that's really what got me through my first book. It was hard. I wanted to quit. In the middle, it was quicksand. All along the way, I thought this was impossible. But I had seen that there were 3% of people got the book done. And I was determined, even if the book was crap, to be in that 3% club. So that kind of, in my head, was the mantra. I also did the mantra to tell myself, I can do this. I'm a great writer. Even at the time, I don't think I believed it. You know, I'm a great storyteller. I'm a great writer. I'm going to be in the 3% club. It was like a daily mantra I told myself to get myself through it. So
fake it till you make it. That's what we need.
That's exactly. I do agree. I do think you have to fake it. Convince yourself you can do it, even if you don't always believe it. Because I think even every writer at some point looks at the story they're working on and thinks, is this good? Is it boring? You know what I mean? There's always parts in the story you get to, no matter how many books you've written.
I mean, I've got friends going back to book 4, book 5 with mainstream publishers, and they're like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Why did I think I could do it? And I'm like, no matter how far along in your career are, it hits you.
Yeah.
So
it does.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. We've got some
not an easy career.
No, we've got some fun questions now.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, as a writer, what would you choose as your mascot / avatar / spirit animal?
That's a good one. I don't know. See, my spirit animal has always been in my head cheetahs, because I like big cats, but I don't know so that would be kind of cool. But then, in the Dark Ritual series, she has, they control banshees, death dealers. But in her thing, she controls spirit animals instead of banshees, because she's a healer that's taken on the dark arts. So in her, she has like wolves and bears, spirits of those that she controls. So yeah, that would be kind of cool.
I really wish you could republish this, because I'm not on Wattpad, but I'm desperate to read this series of yours because it sounds amazing.
I mean, I hope you like it. I'm more of a Nancy Drew writer. I'm not a wordsmith. I've never been a wordsmith. Right. And I kind of wrote this series to entertain kids that don't like to read. I mean, that was my intent with the series. I wanted to write something that had a lot of action, a lot of fun, and have a lot of big words.
Absolutely.
And I wrote it to entertain my nieces at the time too, to get them excited about, stories. Right. So, I mean, you may like it, you may not, because I'm not a wordsmith. A lot of the YA authors are all about being the beautiful description and all that kind of stuff. I'm more about the adventure story. So
there are some times when BookTok recommends a book and I'll go and read the blurb and I'll just go, no, I'm all about the fast pace, the tension, your Dean Koontz, your Stephen King, I don't like, so I'll be happy to read yours. Okay. If you could only eat one meal and drink one drink for the rest of your life, what would it be?
It would have to be a meal I could eat all the time. Would be any kind of pasta meal. I could always do me with some noodles. Even just some Parmesan cheese and some butter. I'm there, right?
Nice.
And probably the drink, I could not live without coffee, even though I only have 2 cups a day. That would probably something I couldn't live without.
Yeah.
But I think those would be my 2 go-to.
Okay. Yeah. See, I'm all about the Prosecco and the bubbles, but
Oh, are you about the bubbles?
Yeah, I love my bubbles.
Don't get me wrong, I do like cinnamon whiskey, the Fireball whiskey.
Nice.
That's nice. Yeah. Have you ever had it?
No.
Fireball whiskey? Yeah. Okay. It is very nice.
Oh, I'm going to have to look out, because I'm not really a whiskey person, but that sounds nice.
Yeah, we started drinking whiskey a little bit, and I have to say, don't get me wrong, I drink this much whiskey and this much water.
Yeah.
Because I'm not much of a drinker, but I do like the Fireball whiskey. It's pretty nice.
We're all about our gins here and our flavored gins.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite at the moment is a rhubarb and ginger gin, which is delicious.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I've never really tried gin before. So we do mojitos in the Southwest, whiskey.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Are you Marvel or DC?
I would have to say I have to do both. I'm very sorry, but I'm a huge comic book geek. I'm a huge nerd, and if I couldn't have both in my life, it would destroy me. So yeah, no, I'm taking both.
I love it. I love it.
I mean, if there is a Marvel or DC movie, my husband and I are there at it.
So.
Suicide Squad, you know, he took the day off work to go see Suicide Squad. Yeah. He literally took a day that we went to go see it. So yeah, we're huge comic book nerds. And
right. I love it. I mean, we're currently working our way through all the Marvel movies in chronological order with the kids. So that's fun.
Yes, we've done that for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
Every now and again, we'll be like, let's watch them all in the order, right? And I'm married to a Star Wars nerd, which means every year before May the 4th, he actually takes a day off. He has it in his contract. He gets May the 4th off in his contract. The lawyer wouldn't call it a nerd holiday because he wanted to call it the nerd holiday, but he also has in his contract an agreement that they wouldn't put in as a nerd holiday. If there's ever a new Star Wars movie, he gets that day off, whatever it is.
That's fantastic. That is
so the day before May the 4th. Yeah. So the day before May the 4th, he just is like, I love you. Just bring me food. And he starts watching Star Wars in the order. Yeah. And that's how he is every year.
That is amazing. There will be another 3 movies at some point.
I know. Right now they're doing really well with the other thing, but I mean, but the stuff they've been doing on Disney has been pretty good. So
yeah. Okay. Are you Tom and Jerry or Donald Duck?
Tom and Jerry. I always like Tom and Jerry.
Yeah. Naughty. Yeah. Okay.
But I really like the Coyote and yes, that was my favorite.
Wiley Coyote. My son is called Riley. So when he was born, my grandfather made a T-shirt that said Riley Coyote on it with the picture
I've always
of the coyote.
Loved that.
Yeah.
The Roadrunner and the Coyote have always been my favorite.
No, it's good. It's good. All right. So there's 2 parts to this next question.
Okay.
You're going to take 3 books to a desert island or give to an alien. They could be the same. They could be different. What are we thinking?
Well, if I had to take, I'm a huge Jane Austen fan. I probably could read. Yes, I love Jane Austen. So I would take something from Jane Austen.
Okay.
And I also there's some really big fantasy books that I was totally into as a kid that I could probably read over and over again, like Mist of Avalon or like the Dragons of Pern or something like that. You know, that would just be something I would read over and over. But yeah, I don't. That's a tough one.
Okay.
I need a suitcase. I need a Kindle, and I need a source of like power at the island.
Yeah. Absolutely. But do you think Aliens should be given a different book to what you might take away with you as a comfort read?
Probably, because I think the Aliens probably should have something that is more comforting and probably more literary. Yeah. I mean, Jane Austen is, but it's still just Jane Austen does incredible characters, and I love the characters that she does. So for me, I'm not reading Jane Austen because I'm being all like, ooh, look, highfalutin. I'm reading Jane Austen because she just does the most. Some of the ditzy characters are so entertaining. You know what I mean? She just really, the characters are the most fun for me in the Jane Austen books. So
yeah, that's true. All right, the last fun question: have you got any talents that would help you survive the Hunger Games?
I don't know if I have any talents that would help me do this Hunger Games. I can crochet, but that won't help. Baking, I can't really throw like
you
brownies.
You can feed yourself, so.
I will tell you that when I'm not sick with chronic fatigue, I come from a group of people that are super crazy athletic. And my dad lettered in like 7 sports. He just was could do just about anything, natural athlete. And I do have what we call the Scottish, I come from, my grandparents were originally from Scotland.
Okay.
So I do have that Scottish warrior rage that could kick in. So if I was well, I could be like, give me an axe and here I come,
Or Braveheart.
I actually put in the back of one of my book, have the acknowledgements. I said to my nieces and nephews, if there's ever a zombie attack, pick up an axe, stand next to each other, and remember who you, what your DNA is, and kick some zombie ass, right? So
awesomeness.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Allie came in.
Oh, Allie's there.
Did we tell Allie and I? We were in a chat last night, and Colleen Hoover came in the chat, and we were so not cool. No. We both totally freaked out. She must have thought we were insane.
And where is she today? I mean, obviously it's not nighttime for her like it was.
I don't know. I think she was done her chat and popped in. First of all, we didn't believe it. So it took us a good 10 minutes of like, that can't be Colleen Hoover. Yeah. Is that Colleen Hoover? Yeah. And then we both panicked. We both freaked out. Yeah. She probably thinks we're insane. Most people will be like, hey, Colleen, how are you? Yeah, that wasn't us.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for her to notice my my direct message.
I can't believe I was being so envious about all the people that she was friending. And I got to tell you, I was having envy. Yeah. I didn't realize that she had friended me and I missed it.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Classic.
The whole freaking time. And I couldn't believe it. I really thought Allie had lost her mind when she said it was real. I kept saying, Allie, it can't be her. And Allie was like, look, I'm looking at the name. It's her.
Yeah.
I posted a little video of us being on here. Yes, I do.
For following people and interacting with people. And I just think actually it just puts us all, we're all authors at the end of the day, no matter what our path is. And I think that's fantastic of her to be so welcoming and friendly. It's great. Yeah.
And Allie said, Colleen Hoover said she watches all my videos, and I can't believe that to be true, because when I went to do videos this morning, I had to put that on my head and not believe it because it was freaking me out.
Yeah.
I'm like, Colleen Hoover doesn't watch all my videos.
So now I choose not to believe you're going to have this is for Colleen Hoover in your head.
I honestly had to push that out of my head, like that's not a real thing, because it would freak me out too much.
It would help if she liked them, and then you could know what she watched.
No, that would make me even more nervous. No, that would make me nervous. I'm like, why would she watch my videos? But it is funny if you think about it, because like she's just probably a writer, and then when people meet her, they like freak out.
Yeah.
And it's just, you think about that sometimes, because sometimes I'll have people, I'm like a nobody, and I only have like 3,700 people follow me, and every now and again I'll reply to someone, and someone will be like, oh my god, I'm fangirling, you replied to me, and I'm like, who are they talking about?
Yeah.
Are they talking to me?
Okay, well, I'm waiting for those moments. I want some of those moments, You want
some?
Yeah. I'll take it.
I've only had it happen a couple times.
Yeah.
So don't think I have this huge fan base, but it always means like, who are they talking about? So could you imagine if you become like famous one day and suddenly everybody is freaking out if they saw you? I mean, that would be really funny.
Or all the friends that you had, yeah. So after Broken Lullaby, what's next for you? Do you have things in mind? Yeah.
I have in the plan. So we're going to do book 2. And then I have started and worked on a prequel to the Dark Rituals and a series after it. And I literally have 125 pages of one of them done and 75 pages done of the other. And then I got really sick for a while and I couldn't write. I put those aside, and I am determined to get the next, either the prequel, one of those series done. So it'll be a 3-book series. It's set in the Dark Ritual world, but it's either the prequel, because in the prequel, what you learn in the Dark Ritual series, I don't, if you're going to read it, it's a spoiler, but it was really funny because we always talked about 100 years ago, something happened and the demons were released into our world, right? Yeah. And then my editor said, what happened? Yeah. And I'm like, what?
COVID?
I'm like, I was like,
vaccines?
What do you mean? She goes, well, you made a reference to this because I and something that we haven't come out and said, not many people know, but I'm kind of getting this out a little bit, is the Dark Ritual series is actually co-written with my husband. And nobody knows this because at the time he was writing it, he was a fireman and he was the fire chief. And he said, there's no way I can write a young adult paranormal horror series without being brutally teased by the firemen for the rest of my life. So he made me just put it under the Catrina Burgess name, and he made me swear I would not tell anyone. And for the longest time, it was only like my mom and Marie who knew, and our editors, right? And he wrote every book in the series, he wrote more, like in the first book in the series, he wrote maybe like 30% of it. He likes to write the fight scenes, and he like helps with some of the spooky description. But each book he wrote more and more, and by the last book he actually wrote half the book.
Wow.
And so I was like, at some point I have to be able to tell people. And he's like, no, swear to me you won't. You don't understand how teasing that fireman could be, right? They would just have been brutal.
But also,
now he's a town.
It also might work in his favor. I mean, and did these firemen not have teenagers?
But you don't understand. They like to razz and tease each other about it. But now he's the town manager. And so now he's okay about it coming out.
Yeah.
But he's still kind of on the edge. Like, okay, you can tell some people. So I haven't like officially announced it yet that he's the, you know, and he says, I don't want to be a partner. I want to be writing with. And I'm like, how does that work when you help me brainstorm sometimes, come up with some of the story ideas, and half the last book is yours? And he's like, it should just be writing with. So until we get that worked out, because we're fighting about that in a nice way, where I'm like, you're my writing partner, and he's like, I'm just writing with. Once we get that worked out, we'll come out to the world about being a writing partner. So
and you're
he
going to have to get him his own TikTok account, clearly.
Oh, Lord, no. He's not doing any TikTok. He's not doing any social media. I have to go and post every now and again on his town manager Facebook page. He is not having anything to do with anything. But, yeah. So, I don't know.
Oh,
it's just, he's always been a co-writer on it secretly, right? Yeah. So, one day that will officially come out once we fight it out. I'm saying writing partner. He's like writing with. So, we have to work that out.
Right, Kat, I think I've taken up enough of your time.
You need to go.
Yeah, I just want to say
it's late on your end.
Yeah, huge congratulations for your new release. Thank you. I hope that everyone checks out Broken Lullaby. It is amazing. Please do.
I'm so glad you liked it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And thank you, Allie. Allie says secret's out. Yeah, I'm kind of getting it out a little slowly. Yeah. I've told a couple people in live, because there's not tons of people on live. So you're like, here you go. Secret's out. That's all right. Well,
all right.
You have a nice night, because you're going to bed.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
I will talk to you later.
Excellent.
See you later, Allie. Bye. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I will talk to you later. Bye.
And that was the end of my interview with Catrina Burgess, author of Broken Lullaby, which is the new adult spicy romance. Please do check it out when you can. I can figure out how to end this stupid thing.